Welcome to your Frequency Shift podcast. Hi, I'm Nick.
Hi, I'm Karis.
Together we help founders, leaders, and families recalibrate life, love, and business at the level that actually matters, your nervous system and your frequency. In this space, we speak honestly about the things that drain you and the practices that restore you. From relationships and polarity to leadership and legacy, we strip it back so that you can show up fully alive at home and in the boardroom. Whether it's the two of us or powerful guests joining in, this podcast is here to help you shift.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to part 2 of our series on authenticity. And last time we unpacked all the inherited scripts, so the stories that shape us before we even know who we are, and how awareness on those stories helps us let go of what isn't. And so today we are diving into what happens after that. So what it actually costs to live authentically, because everyone loves the idea of authenticity until it actually asks something from you, until it asks you to change something, and then until it asks for you to actually be witnessed in that authenticity, because all of these things require vulnerability. And how comfortable are we within that? And really excited to dive into this part 2 of this series. It's just interesting trying to find space for these episodes when our life has been so full. We've just finished school holidays with the boys and trying to squeeze in a podcast between picking up the boys and a baby napping and next client sessions and all of the other things that go in between building a life. It's felt mad, but very grateful for it.
It's been busy. It's really been busy. And just moving back into authenticity, it sounds all beautiful and it sounds exciting and empowering. And I think a lot of people have also associated freedom with authenticity. What I've found is it's not just freeing, it's also disruptive. Mm-hmm. And it shakes things up. And at the end of the day, authenticity will cost you approval. Mm-hmm. And it will cost you your sense of belonging. It will cost you the version of you that everyone's comfortable with, including yourself. Mm-hmm. It's a complete identity shift. And I will say when we've gone through this journey over the years, I think we've also stepped into different layers of autonomy and authenticity as we begin to express ourselves.
100%.
And it has been one incredible ride.
There's a lot of things you have to get comfortable with, but at the end of the day, the price of pretending is always higher than what authenticity is asking from you. And it's so interesting because when we started saying, actually, I don't like this dynamic. I don't want to go along with this mentality. I don't agree with what's being said. It's like you feel everybody's eyes suddenly shift onto you and it's like, whoa, Karis, why are you being so problematic? Whoa, Nick, why are you trying to go against something that is the way that it is? And it was just interesting how we lost so many people that we thought were friends. Beyond that, it was not even just, everyone sort of just fell away the more comfortable we got within living what felt authentic to ourselves as individuals.
And I think to add to that is you're relating to other people with a mask on at the end of the day. Actually build a connection through a mask.
Yeah, then it's did we actually have a relationship? Did we have a friendship?
Because then you remove the mask and I was like, oh goodness, you're still wearing your mask.
I'm still wearing mine.
And if you've taken a bit more of your mask off, it makes that other person uncomfortable because they're unable to place you. And you see them more intently than what you saw them before. It's like, oh goodness, I don't think you're my cup of tea, and you're definitely not going to be their cup of tea. So naturally, it just progresses that way.
So when you start being yourself, when you start really being yourself, you're actually holding up a mirror. And the thing with holding up a mirror is it makes people very uncomfortable because the second you start living differently, it exposes where someone else isn't free yet. And a lot of the times, and what I've experienced on this journey is, instead of uplifting themselves, people are going to try to pull you down to their level. And it's not because people are necessarily evil. It's just because your authenticity threatens their comfort. It threatens their life. It threatens just everything, the entire way of being in the life that they're living.
It's triggering on so many different levels when they have to bear witness to that. Mm-hmm. And I think it also, I mean, from my understanding of this, I think there's also a component of the nervous system. Mm-hmm. And there's how could I verbalize this? It's like the body's truth, which is essentially your nervous system. So, before you try to be authentic, one may have to ask, where am I right now? Am I open and regulated, or am I protecting, pleasing, or freezing? Mm-hmm. And I bring that up and tie that into that mirror share, because a lot of these individuals, when they are witnessing you, they're not regulated.
Yep.
So how do you expect someone to authentically express themselves, let alone yourself, if you're not in a regulated space? So I want to share with you a couple of spot check questions that you can just run through, which is, does my body feel open or tight as I speak right now? Mm-hmm. Am I sharing to connect or to control? Do I feel present in my breath, or am I trying to rush through this moment?
So when you notice that tension, it's not failure, it's just feedback. And that's the moment to actually pause and to breathe and to come back into safety before you speak, because discernment begins with regulation. And you can't choose clearly when you're being hijacked. So to live authentically and to live with discernment starts with regulation first, and being able to see into your waters.
When you're in a ventral vagal state, you're grounded, you're open and connected. And just bringing in polyvagal theory here for a brief moment, you end up being able to express calm, a sense of authority, connectedness. But when you're in that sympathetic state, as we said earlier, you're in that fight, flight space, and authenticity essentially turns into defensiveness and oversharing. Because you're trying to create a sense of safety inside of your system. If you're not in that space, then you move into dorsal shutdown, which is complete disconnect.
If you take that example, it's actually quite interesting, because people think that vulnerability is that you're talking about, where you go to someone and you're crying on their shoulder and you're opening up and talking about all your secrets. That is not essentially vulnerability. Vulnerability is also, I'm telling you something and expressing something. I'm showing you a part of my mind and how I think and a piece of my heart. And it's different to how you think. And you might reject that and not accept the way that I think. And there's a level of vulnerability that comes with that. And so authenticity and living from that place, you cannot be authentic without being vulnerable. And that's why people say that it is courageous to do that. Because the world is always going to prefer a version of you that fits that narrative or their own narrative. And authenticity is saying, I'm not auditioning anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. I don't have to. And that is extremely vulnerable, It's also being able to stay open whilst you're doing that. Because when there is that risk of rejection, when there's that risk of embarrassment, if you are not comfortable with that, you would rather reject yourself, your own mind, and your way of thinking, and then move back into that self-betrayal space. And that's where that nervous system starts shutting down, and you start fawning and you start moving into that space. Because when you start betraying yourself and moving into rejection, by you rejecting yourself, your body rejects you. And this is the thing we have to look at, because rejection is a teacher. Embarrassment is a teacher. Being called crazy is just feedback to you stepping outside of someone else's illusion.
And essentially, discernment is nervous system wisdom in real time. You're getting that instantaneous feedback of just where you're at. And if you're able to pause and if you're able to connect with yourself, you'll see where you're trying to connect from and what is the need that you're trying to have met. So when you're defending, you're looking for safety. When you're oversharing, you're looking for connection and safety within that connection.
It's in these parenting books, there's this one thing of like, what is behind, like what is the need behind what you're doing in all of your behaviors? If you want to scream and shout, like what do you actually need? So maybe just checking in with that first, like exactly what you were saying. I think that discernment, they say, is the quiet twin of authenticity. So, it's also just being able to stand in your own truth without the armor of performance. And sometimes the most vulnerable thing you can do is not explain yourself, which is something I'm actively learning. Oh, you made this massive decision. What was your thinking behind it? I think, especially as women, we're taught to justify all of our decisions and have to run it by someone or ask for permission for something or check in. And a lot of the times we don't really necessarily understand that that's a way of giving your power away. Stop explaining yourself. You don't have to, you just did it. Accept it and move on.
Honestly, you don't owe anyone an explanation. And look, when you find that you're in a space of dysregulation, you'll notice that one's ego ends up taking over. So fight may look like arguing to prove that you're right. Flight may look like ghosting or avoiding hard talks, messages. Your freeze might look like a silent smile whilst you're dying inside.
Yeah, you say yes when you mean no,
Let's do the people-pleasing thing as well. And essentially, authenticity will only happen when you regulate yourself first, and then you actually respond.
So, like, when I unpack what you're saying, it's that the work isn't to actually get rid of the ego or our personality. It's actually to soothe the nervous system so your ego doesn't feel like it has to defend you. Yeah. And I think that's honestly such a beautiful space when you get there, because that's where real authenticity lives. It's in that space between the reaction and the response. And there's a quiet, like, calm that comes with it, because you have to be present with it. You can't be distracted in it.
Peace.
Yeah.
And presence.
It's so interesting because now that we have our third baby, you have to be, this one, not that we weren't like this with others, but like, you cannot be on your phone. You can't be like, you have to be so present in like all of your responses with her, and the way that she like looks for, am I doing this right? Is this like, yeah, it's just incredible to be a part of, to see how reactive and responsive she is. And I think sometimes we're also asking for that level of presence within ourselves. Authenticity isn't easy, and sometimes you need a backing from yourself, if that makes sense.
And I just want to invite this into your work life as well. When you're coming from a space of pushing and just doing, and you're in this fight-flight response, or you're avoiding certain things through procrastination, there's a clear set of indicators stating that you are not present. You're not accessing your genius. You're not authentically expressing yourself in that moment. Authenticity ties into performance. If I'm thinking about, if I'm hiring people now or working with people, I want to know that people are regulated, that they are in their power, that they are sound of mind, body, and spirit.
And they can handle making decisions under pressure.
Because skills you can develop. But being able to actually use those skills effectively, the conductor of said skill set needs to be in the best place possible. And if they are not able to authentically express themselves, i.e. meaning that you are not regulated, that you've got these patterns or beliefs or these old mechanics that are keeping you from feeling free, feeling and being at peace with inside of yourself, and feeling safe enough to express your truth.
I think this is where discernment comes in, you as the person hiring said person.
100%.
I think back to a couple of years ago where you were on this train of like, you want to disrupt the system and you want to shock, like have this polarizing thing. Like that was the thing that you were doing then. And I just think it's so interesting knowing what we know now on that, because, it's easy to get lost in something when you don't have that discernment, because a lot of the times the things that you reach for will feel like something that is truthful, but it feels good, but it doesn't mean that it is like the right thing for when it comes to like authenticity and discernment. Example, when I go back to that, and I'm not trying to like crap on you in any way, it's just I think sometimes the ego loves the aesthetic of authenticity. So we've built an entire culture around it, like that whole, the red table talk where it's like, oh, be real, you need to speak your truth and there's no filters. But like what that is a lot of the times is rebellion dressed up as authenticity. Because true authenticity, it's not about like shocking people. It's not about purposefully bringing that like polarizing thing, it's about aligning with your values quietly and consistently. And if that's the thing that is polarizing to people, then let that be that. But you don't have to go and aim for the shocking thing, there's another performance, so, and that's the part of, I did the same thing as well,
Exactly. The ego wants to perform authenticity and the soul just wants to live it. So check your motive, and are you expressing your truth, or are you trying to prove that you're different? So here's a couple of action steps around embodied authenticity, and here's 5 ways to practice authentic living from the body up. Because it's very easy to get stuck in the head with this idea of authenticity, especially with what you've just expressed. So notice the pull to please. Check your body before saying yes. If there's a tight jaw, it's probably a no. Next, regulate, then relate. 1 slow breath before you answer anything emotionally.
It's like a 3-second rule.
Yes.
I think, it's that whole thing of like, before you actually respond, is this like honest, necessary, and kind? If it's not, silence is probably the most authentic answer with that.
100%. Rename the fear. I'm not being rejected. I'm recalibrating safety.
I think one of the other things to add on there is also I'm learning who is safe for my truth, because that's not for everyone.
Yep. I like that. The next one would be word of the day. So choose one regulating phrase. I'm grounded. I'm safe to be seen.
I'm enough.
And lastly, nightly integrity scan. Ask yourself, did I speak from calm truth or from chaos today?
It's these small course corrections that build up this level of unshakable authenticity within ourselves. I think the important part to remember is that being authentic doesn't mean you stop caring. It just means you stop contorting. You can still love people deeply while staying rooted in who you are.
Living authentically will always cost you something, be it comfort, approval, predictability. But the trade-off at the end of the day is peace. And your peace is priceless.
So this week, when you notice yourself shrinking or softening your truth just to stay light, notice where you are performing instead of expressing. And if you catch yourself doing it, don't judge it. Just breathe and choose again, because authenticity is not a one-time act. It's a daily practice.
So thanks again for joining us on the Your Frequency podcast. And in the next episode, we'll be diving into how one sustains authenticity, the habits, the rituals, and the environment that can help you live it every single day. Every shift begins with awareness. So if you're ready to see where your energy is being drained, start with the free energy leak scorecard at frequencycoaching.com. And when you're ready to go deeper, our coaching and retreats are there to help you embody the clarity, presence, and power you were built for. Until next time, keep honoring your truth, protecting your energy, and living in the frequency of who you really are. You can make the shift.